1800s, the fertile fields of Adams, Tennessee, were home to many small farms, but none would become more infamous than the Bell Farm. John Bell and his family had moved to the area in 1804, settling on a picturesque piece of land along the Red River. Their homestead thrived, and John became a respected figure in the local community. He and his wife, Lucy, were blessed with several children, and life seemed peaceful. However, a shadow would soon fall over the Bell family, one that would forever change their lives and echo through history as one of the most terrifying paranormal events ever recorded, the tale of the Bell Witch, ####, the beginning of the haunting. It all started innocently enough. In 1817, strange occurrences began to disrupt the family's daily routine. John Bell noticed odd things happening around the farm. Tools went missing, animals were spooked for no reason, and an eerie, unsettling presence seemed to hover around the property. At first, the disturbances were minor, almost playful, but soon they would take on a much darker tone. One night, the family began hearing odd noises in their home. At first, it was faint, like a distant scratching or knocking on the walls. The sounds grew louder as the nights went on, morphing into the sound of chains dragging along the floors, heavy footsteps stomping through the house, and even disembodied voices whispering unintelligible words in the darkness. The Bell children were particularly terrified by the sounds, especially the youngest daughter, Betsy, who seemed to be targeted by whatever was haunting them. She often woke in the night, screaming that something had pulled her hair or slapped her face. Her cheeks would be red and swollen, as if struck by an unseen hand, ####, the escalation, physical attacks and a voice from the shadows. As weeks passed, the entity became more violent and active. Objects in the house would move on their own. The family would find chairs tipped over, blankets pulled from their beds, and the entire house would shudder with strange, unexplainable activity. The presence seemed to enjoy tormenting them. Especially Betsy, who suffered constant physical abuse from the unseen force. The family was at their wits' end and began to confide in neighbors about their troubles. Before long, people from the local community came to witness the strange events firsthand. Many reported hearing strange voices or seeing objects move without explanation. Some even heard the distinct voice of the entity, which by now had begun to speak more clearly. It seemed to have a personality, a dark, mocking, and malevolent one. The voice introduced itself as the Bell Witch, a spirit that claimed to haunt the family for personal reasons. The Bell Witch took a particular interest in tormenting two members of the family, John Bell and his daughter, Betsy. While it harassed the rest of the household with tricks and violent outbursts, its attacks on John and Betsy were far more sinister. The spirit began to communicate with the family more frequently, and its voice was filled with anger whenever it mentioned John Bell. It often cursed him and made ominous statements, saying, "I will kill John Bell." Betsy, the youngest daughter, endured some of the worst torments. The witch slapped her, yanked her hair, and even left bruises and handprints on her skin. Her parents tried to comfort her, but nothing seemed to stop the witch's wrath. Betsy's situation worsened when she became engaged to a young man named Joshua Gardner. The Bell Witch made it clear that it did not approve of the engagement. Whenever Joshua visited, the entity would shriek insults and throw things across the room. Betsy, deeply disturbed and frightened, eventually called off the engagement. But even that did not stop the witch's relentless attacks on her. It seemed there was no escape from the witch's malevolence. Hashtag the death of John Bell, the witch's final act of revenge. As time passed, John Bell's health began to decline mysteriously. He had been a strong, healthy man, but now he often complained of feeling weak and unwell. His condition worsened, with sudden episodes where he would feel paralyzed, unable to speak or move for hours. No doctor could determine the cause of his illness. In 1820, the Bell Witch seemed to intensify its attacks on John Bell. The voice grew louder and more aggressive, often calling him by name and taunting him. "Old Jack Bell will die soon," it would shriek. John Bell's illness progressed rapidly, and by the end of the year, he was bedridden. On the morning of December 20th, 1820, John Bell was found dead in his bed. Beside him, on the nightstand, was a strange vial of dark liquid that no one in the family recognized. Alarmed, the family summoned a doctor, who inspected the vial but couldn't determine what it contained. In desperation, they tested the liquid by giving a drop of it to the family's cat. The poor animal convulsed and died almost immediately. The witch, always present but unseen, cackled in the air. "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night, which fixed him." John Bell's death was officially attributed to poisoning, though no one knew who, or what, was responsible. The Bell family, however,